5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen and in-betweeners, on this week's On the Rocks Live from Home edition category is Quarantine Extravaganza with our guest, star of FX Pose and host of PBS's Prideland, Dyllon Burnside, and me, your favorite host with the sassy most. Raise a glass and let the drinks begin.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy, buttons and bows and pantyhose. On the Rocks podcast, a place where we're too glam to give a damn. Okay, so they are advertising Oreo Thins. What the hell? That's like Disneyland without the rides. I mean, are we cookie shaming now? I mean, Oreo Thins? No. And another thing I want to say, all those people commenting on people starting their Just for Fans and Aaron Carter doing live cams, are you paying their bills? I don't think so. So put on your mask and hush up. Okay, double bloop. Okay, Kurt, do you have a pun for us today?
I do, funny. Yes. I always have a pun for you.
Oh, God, make it snappy.
I meant to look for my missing watch, but I could never find the time.
Kurt, that was bad. That was bad even in quarantine. That is bad. And I've seen some bad stuff.
I mean, they're always
during
bad.
Quarantine. No, I can't. You and Warrior Nun, the same level. Can't watch it, can't listen. Okay, today's show is brought to you by Drag4.fans, founded by the creators of Just for Fans. Drag for Fans is a free-to-join platform for drag queens to connect with their fans. Watch, subscribe, and tip your drag queens there. And all the drag queens need a little income, need a little love, so Shantae, they pay. Go to drag4fans.com. Set up your account. The show is presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and or listen to our every now over 225 episodes at ontherocksradioshow.com for free. Binge watch during quarantine. Hello to our listeners around the nation on every major podcast platform, including iHeartRadio and Pandora, Gay Binge TV, and on the Facebook pages of Now Trending, GED Magazine, and I Love Gay LGBT, and of course, our very own On the Rocks Radio Show Facebook page. We are also streaming on Roku and Amazon Fire TV at outat.tv and heretv.com. We are everywhere, and YouTube channel for Planet Out. Add and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Like us on Twitter and Instagram at On The Rocks On Air. Send me an email. Book me for a wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris. I don't care. I will zoom in and show up. Info at ontherocksradioshow.com. Send us your questions, comments, and nudes. Okay, check out our new issue of Metrosource Magazine and my interviews this month with RuPaul's Drag Race's Michelle Visage, Bob the Drag Queen, and YouTuber Kaylin Allen from The Ellen Show. It's now on newsstands nationally or metrosource.com. Okay, let me welcome the man of the hour. I am so excited. I've had a crush. Okay, I'm just going to put it that way. From the age of 12, Dyllon has been charming the hearts of audiences as a singer, actor, dancer, touring with Stevie Wonder and my girl Rihanna. She still owes me $20, by the way. He made his Broadway debut in Holler If You Hear Me, has appeared on Peter Pan Live as a Lost Boy, and he has appeared on one of my favorite shows on HBO, High Maintenance, and of course as Ricky Evangelista on FX's Pose, and has served as host for this Pride season, PBS's Prideland. He is also a film and theater producer and advocate for the LGBTQ community. He's as beautiful inside as he is outside. Category is Dyllon Burnside. 10, 10, 10. Please welcome Dyllon. My, look at you. Showing us some cleavage so early in the show. No, it looks like you're in some like cabin, just relaxing and meditating. Are you in a cabin?
That is absolutely what I'm doing. I'm in a cabin right now. I put myself on a little retreat, a solo sort of get in touch with myself and nature and do some writing kind of moment, and it's really beautiful.
Well, and I think a lot of us creatives are taking a moment, and now we have an opportunity to kind of to rethink what we're doing, to consider new paths, also to rediscover our skills that we might have let sleep a little because we've been so busy, and you certainly have been so busy. What's the address? I'm going to come by later with some wine.
I'll text it to you.
Yeah, okay.
You don't want everybody showing up.
Girl, and they will, by the way. Oh, Lord. This year, we had to celebrate Pride digitally. My yearly Pride diet was like, hello, where are you? And I was like, not this year. But we have been able to take part in Pride digitally. And you have a very special series on PBS and digital PBS called Prideland. You have short form, intimate conversations over a variety of important topics in the South, close to and reminiscent of your hometown of Pensacola. Topics you've covered include sexuality, religion, equality in business, and adoption for same-sex couples. What I love about the series is seeing you as the host, which is we've not seen you that way before, or I have not, as the interviewer. And I study a lot of interviewers because, girl, they're competition, right? But you have such a quality where you're so actively listening to who you're talking to. No notes, no outline in front of you. You're just being present. Hosting is very different than acting. What was your creative process in preparing for this series?
I've always just been really nosy, Alex. Like
that's what I tell people too. They're like, "God, you're so good." And I'm like, "No, I'm just nosy and usually tipsy, and that's a good combo."
No, I wasn't tipsy for PBS, but
no, I know you weren't. They wouldn't let you be.
But I've just been always a naturally curious person. Even as a kid, I was the kid who asked way too many questions that the adults hated. You know, I was going to ask why. I wanted to know the reasons why things worked. I took stuff apart to figure out why it works. And so going on this journey for Prideland, I was really interested in meeting these people and trying to understand what their lives are like in the South and what their experiences are like and why they stayed. And all of these people were so fascinating, and they all have lived really interesting lives that I was just really naturally curious.
That is one of the major things I took away. I grew up in Orange County, which is a very conservative part of Southern California. It's only about an hour away from LA, but I still left Orange County to go to LA. What really hit me the most from this series was people from the LGBT community that stayed in their ultra conservative, sometimes not accepting communities to really make a stand, which can be very dangerous, by the way. But they decided to stay in their community, open up communications, be who they are, and in some cases even start families in these smaller communities. And that really just took me aback, because that's a certain courage I don't know that I would have. And it's a courage that they have to live every day. Every day can be a struggle for these people in communities that are not as accepting. I mean, I'm in West Hollywood where, my God, you could go to the grocery store in a Speedo and a boa.
It's so hard for you there to be yourself. Like, right? I can't imagine how you go outside.
Girl, I don't even wear pants when I go outside. That's WeHo for you. But this is so different because, like I said, it's their job, it's their family, it's them going to the grocery store. Everything could be an obstacle, and they've decided to stay there. What was it like going back to that kind of way of thinking in the South? Like I said, it was very close to your hometown. What was it like coming back after you've changed so much and you've been in the entertainment bubble of LA, New York, on a hit show, and now you're like, oh yeah, I forgot this is how things are?
Yeah, I see you got that picture of me and Ryan Swain. Ryan is actually from Birmingham, Alabama.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so also another Southern boy. But it was tough. And even now here, I'm in the South now, and I've been quarantining in the South, and I've been sort of road tripping as things have sort of opened up more. And it's tough. It is vastly different in some pockets in the South than it is, in these really liberal spaces on the East Coast and in LA and in some of these coastal cities where all types of diversity, racial diversity, sexual or diversity in sexual orientation or gender identity is more widely accepted. When you go to a lot of these places in the middle of the country, like in North Carolina and in Virginia and West Virginia and Tennessee and Kentucky and Mississippi, it's not as diverse. You see mostly, a lot of straight, presumably straight white folks, and every now and then you'll see people of color, and it's very rare that you see people who you would know automatically are queer. And so there are many moments where I have felt sort of like my mere presence is a statement. And my mere presence is sort of maybe perhaps making space for someone else if I'm able to sort of live in an authentic way or not be afraid to wear a pride shirt or something like that. But it's also kind of scary because we are in a time right now where difference is not being celebrated. We came out of a season in our country's history where we were talking about difference in a way and celebrating it in a way. And from the top down right now, we are seeing difference being ostracized and difference being criticized, and people not wanting to be as embracing, let alone be tolerant of difference. So it was the journey to making Prideland, and then my journey for the rest of the year, which ended up being spent in the South, because we filmed Prideland in January. I was in LA in February, went to New York in March to start filming season 3 of Pose, and then ended up in Georgia middle of March when the pandemic began, and I've been in the South ever since. And so I've been in the South most of this year, and I just had no idea that I would be spending so much time down here, and it's been filled with lots of different emotions and thoughts.
I can imagine, kind of like a circle of life, and just a time of reflection, especially considering the year that you've had career-wise. And like you said, everywhere we turn on the TV, we're reminded that there's bigotry, racism, there's hatred. It's such a weird time for the country, and that's what I love. I think the series came at such a great time because the series focuses on the actual diversity of the everyday LGBTQ person in the community. You know, sometimes with the Pride celebrations, we see all of the celebrities or we see all of the pretty people, so to speak. And we forget that there's this really cross section of people that are, working in grocery stores, lawyers, doctors that are living the everyday life. And so if somebody can see themselves represented in this series and they're living in one of those towns, I mean, what a special gift and what a special experience, and so timely for this series.
Can I tell you a quick story?
This is all about you. You can tell me whatever you want.
So, like I said, I've been sort of taking this solo road trip and spending time in like small towns. The last place I stayed was a small town in North Carolina. I stayed on a farm there, and had spent some time just outside in nature and doing some writing, and not really expecting to meet anybody who would know or recognize me. And I went to the grocery store, and then afterwards went across the street to the gas station to pump some gas in my car. And there was a young man on the other side of the pump who I could hear singing and having a good time on the other side of the pump, but I couldn't see him. And I didn't have a mask on because I was outside. And he looked over around the other side of the pump, and I saw him sort of do a double take, and I thought, no, there's no way he knows who I am. And he walks around to the side of the passenger car and then comes back around and he says, are you on TV? And I said, I have been. And he says, you're from that show Pose, aren't you? And I say, yeah, I am. And, just try not to make a big scene out of it. But then I realized that he's a fan of the show. And he said, I love that show and I can't wait until season 3 comes back. and he made some kind of gesture that let me know he was family. And I was like, in that moment, I realized how important shows like Pose and Prideland are for a young boy. He couldn't have been any more than 19. For a young boy in a small town in North Carolina that has Trump signs littered across lawns all over the place, to be able to go to the gas station and see someone from TV who is portraying a character that they identify with. Not only did that must have meant something to him, but he has no idea how much it meant to me to see him out in this space singing and living freely, and not being afraid to be himself. And that made me less afraid to be myself in this town where I thought I better like keep it cute because I don't want any issues here.
Well, I thank you for sharing that. That's special. And you never know who your message is hitting at what point. And like you said, you got something back from that. And like I said, just such an important series. Now, what did you learn about yourself being a host through the series, professionally and personally? What did you walk away? Like, what was your lesson that you learned?
I learned that you can't have any preconceived notions about who people are. You have to, or what a particular place is, because not everyone is many things. And every place is many things, and it's all about what you bring to it and how you choose to see it and how you choose to experience folks. And so, one of the folks that I met during filming Prideland is a mother, Southern Baptist mother named Mary Jane Kennedy. And she and I just connected so deeply. And I just never would have thought that she would have been one of my favorite people throughout this entire experience, because, as a host and producer on Prideland, I was really intentional about making sure we spoke to folks from all different racial backgrounds and socioeconomic backgrounds, because that's important. And I thought, surely me and this Southern Baptist conservative Christian white woman who's, older are not going to have much in common, but we had so much in common, and we had such a great time talking and sharing with one another. And so I just learned that you can't go in judging people, and you can't have preconceived notions. And I think that we all need to recognize that and learn that on both sides of the conversation. Right. The folks who maybe are on the liberal side of the conversation, and then the folks who may be on the conservative side of the conversation, that we all have so much to learn and gain from one another. And we all have so much in common, and the one common denominator that we have is our humanity. And when you begin to look at folks for their humanity and not about their political beliefs or their sexual orientation or gender identity or their race, then you come to see that we're much more alike than we are different.
And you're so right. It is both sides. If we're being so angry that we're not able to talk to somebody, you're not going to change somebody's mind, or you're not going to have somebody think about what they're standing up for through posting a meme or posting something on social media or being so angry. It's the conversations like you mentioned where you just take a breath, remember that everybody's human. And that's how you can change somebody's thinking, or at least offer some enlightenment or stand up for your own case, is by actual conversation and relating to somebody as human. That's number one in trying to progress our equality as the LGBTQ community. We're so angry right now, is what I feel.
And rightfully so. I think the folks that are angry and are burning shit down, they have a reason to be angry. Is that the answer to solving our problems? Maybe not, but I understand the righteous anger.
So I want to talk to you about something else. You went to visit a bakery owned by a straight cis man, and he made a statement for equality. This was when the bakery stuff was going on, where they wouldn't make bake a cake for a same-sex couple. And I'm like, any same-sex couple that would eat cake in front of other gays, like, you make them a cake.
Make them a cake.
Yeah. Yes. The thing that stood out, this baker showed these beautiful cases full of the most gorgeous desserts, and you order a green tea little cake. Green tea cake? What were you thinking?
Wait a minute.
As a curvy girl, I'm like, what is he doing?
Hold on. But what you don't understand is that little cake was the most amazing little cake I've ever had in my life. That pedophore, and there was a bakery in my hometown in Pensacola called Jay's Bakery. Shout out to Jay's Bakery that makes pedophores. And so I grew up walking from, I went to a private Christian school in downtown Pensacola. And, sometimes our teachers would let us walk to the bakery just because random, but we would walk to the bakery and get pedophores. And so when I saw the pedophores in his shop, it reminded me of home and brought up these memories of being in high school and going to get pedophores. But his pedophores, oh my God, are the best pedophores I've ever had. And a lot of people probably don't even know what a pedophore is, but it's like these little square cakes that are iced, and it's just a little tiny cake, and it's a little Southern treat, and it is so fucking good.
Oh, well, I would have eaten anything in that bakery. I kept looking. I'm like, So let's talk about your youth. You started at such a young age. At the age of 12, you were lead singer of 3D, touring with Stevie Wonder, Rihanna, being sold as a musical sensation as well as a heartthrob. That in itself is its own Lifetime movie, right? I can't wait. What were some of the advantages of starting out in the industry so early, and what were some of the disadvantages?
I think one of the main advantages is that I began my training early. I learned stagecraft. I learned professionalism. I learned I started learning the creative process. And I learned the difference between creativity as a hobby or creativity in art that you learn in art class in school versus actually this is creativity that it's commercial art. This is what we're selling and marketing and learning beginning that process of sort of understanding and unpacking what all of that means. And a part of that is how you are sort of viewed as a product, and
for sure
the sort of marketing that goes along with being a product, which brings me perfectly to the second half of your question, which is what sort of the drawback of that is. At a young age, you're being told who you have to be. You're being told who you have to be in order to sell a product. And as a young person, you're still figuring out who you are outside of being a product. And so all of that sort of gets really confusing because you don't actually get to understand who you are. And so that's why you see folks like Lindsay Lohan go through the things that we saw her go through, and Britney Spears go through what we saw her go through, and eventually sort of even out, and so many countless other child stars, Michael Jackson. It's because there's so much pressure, and you're being told who you have to be because you're a product, and it's all marketing, but you don't actually get the time and the opportunity to figure out who you actually are, and assert that for yourself. And so, I was fortunate enough to be able to take a step back and reassess and say, I don't want to receive all of the messages that I'm getting from the outside, and I want to figure it out for myself. And then the other part of that too is I was fortunate because my family was sort of really involved and was not really trying to mold me and shape me in this way that was like really disingenuous or completely outside of my true identity.
Well, and part of being sold as a product, like I said, was being a heartthrob, to screaming girls. And that must have played with your psyche. As you said, as you're going through growing up and your own sexuality is starting to form. That must have been such a mix of emotions. How did you comprehend or deal with those kind of early feelings that, oh, I like boys, but I'm performing, to please girls? And, I mean, there's that whole, and I know that you talk often about this topic, the whole masculine versus feminine and what a man's role is on stage, in the family, in the South, as a son, how did that play with those early feelings?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I will say that I think sexuality is a spectrum. I don't identify as bi, but I also don't identify as gay. I identify as queer. And I have had relationships with girls and with women, and have had wonderful relationships and great sexual relationships with girls and women. And so, let me clarify, girls when I was a boy and women when I was a man.
Yes. Well, hey girl, my mom's ready to slide into your DM. She thinks you're the most adorable thing she's ever seen.
That being said, I also knew that I was very strongly attracted to men and boys, and I had these very strong sexual urges as they related to boys and men, and I didn't have a space to sort of explore that. I wasn't being encouraged to explore that or to or even exploit that, because that's ultimately what you're doing when you're sort of being positioned as a heartthrob, is they're asking you to sort of exploit your sexuality and exploit your sex appeal, and most oftentimes it's being exploited for a cisgender heterosexual gaze. And so I think that, and that's not only specific to folks who are in the music industry or in the entertainment business. We see that this happen in families where kids are encouraged to sort of, engage with their sexuality in a heteronormative way. And I just think it would be healthy for us to talk about sexuality in a different way, so that kids, young people, can tell us the feelings that they're experiencing and the urges that they're having and the thoughts that they feel that they're experiencing and the feelings that they feel for folks of the opposite sex and of the same sex. I just think that would be a lot more healthy. And because I had like this other thing of being in a group and being a heartthrob, all of the things that my family naturally would have done to sort of push me in that sort of lane of being straight was just amplified.
Well, and I think it's so important. This is why having characters such as in Pose, having representation of the LGBTQ characters in media on every level, Disney is now even starting to introduce characters from our community. And that's what's so important, because it's opening the conversation, and it's admitting that there's people from the community that are just like everybody else, and they live next door. They're in your family. You work with them. They're your friends. They're your daughter, son. And so I think it's easier. It's becoming more easier, even in this climate, to have those conversations, because you can't ignore the fact that we're here and we're everywhere.
We ain't going nowhere.
We are not going anywhere. Not even COVID could keep us down. This has been like the most celebratory Pride, because everybody can take part. Something that we kind of share. I was a lead cantor for a Catholic church for 13 years. Cantor is the person singing in the front, sang at all the services on the weekends, funerals, weddings. 13 years I grew up in front of this congregation. One Easter Sunday, I took my boyfriend at the time, and we kissed during the sign of peace. I got an email from the pastor 3 days later saying that my services were no longer required. An email after 13 years that my services were no longer required.
Hold on. Okay, so I don't know a whole lot about the Catholic Church and about the ceremony of it all. But you kissed during what?
So the sign of peace, so it's after the Our Father, and you're supposed to give people a sign of peace, a handshake to strangers, and if it's family or your loved ones, you give them a hug, you give them a kiss. I wasn't making out. I was just like, peace be with you, and then you do the gesture, and I didn't think anything of it, because of course it was in Orange County. I was visiting from West Hollywood because I would come down and sing on the weekends. Yeah. And because of that small gesture, and like I said, it wasn't French kissing, it wasn't anything, it was it was a peck that you would just casually give.
Yeah.
Fired. And I know that you went through the same thing. You had a successful career, inspiring so many people with your work, with the church, and you kind of had that same experience.
Yeah. Whew, it was one of the most difficult experiences of my life. I worked at a church, a mega church that was based in South Florida, and we had a campus in Pensacola. And I, unlike you, I wasn't actually dating anyone. I wasn't even in a space of being anywhere near willing and ready to accept my sexuality yet. All of my feelings were still very much suppressed, and I knew I was attracted to men. And someone saw me hanging out with one of my theater friends who they knew he was gay, and they assumed we were together, and started talking and told the pastor and that we were together, and it was a whole thing. And the pastor came to me and said, "Hey, Dyllon, someone said that you're gay and you're dating this person, and they saw you out together." And I was like, "No, that's not true. Not at all. I haven't been dating anyone my entire time working here, but I want to use this as an opportunity to tell you that I am attracted to men." And I was looking for counsel and support. I was looking for prayer.
And who better to get that from your pastor? That's what a pastor's role is to be shepherd to the people of the congregation.
Right. And I was fired that day. And,
oh my God.
And it was really difficult because I had to come out to my family, and I wasn't in a place of I wasn't ready to do any coming out. I didn't even know what any of it meant for me yet. But I had to talk to my mom about it that day because it was Saturday and we were going to have service on Sunday. And my mom started coming to my church once I started working there, being the supportive mom that she is. And so I had to tell her because the pastor would get up the next day and tell everybody that I left I chose to leave the church because I wanted to pursue a career in theater and move to New York. And I did want to move to New York, and that was another conversation that he and I had in confidence, but that isn't why I wasn't there on that Sunday. And so
what I experienced was the loss of being part of the congregation, and like the church was my family. But what I also experienced was the loss, and I want to know how you felt. I became so disenchanted with the idea of religion, even spirituality. And I had been to Israel. I mean, I was so entrenched in my faith. That coupled with some other life things, the idea and the belief in God just went away. And I felt this loss, this huge loss, like I had lost part of myself because I couldn't be in a church environment. I couldn't even talk about God or Jesus. I just felt nothing. Even to this day, I'm an atheist, not like an angry, fierce atheist. It's just, it hurt me so bad that it burned, it burned everything away of my joy of spirituality. I want to know, how did you feel right after that happened? And what's your relationship with God, spirituality, religion today?
Wow, that's a great question.
Just a small question.
it's tiny, just give it a little yes or no answer. When it happened, I immediately went into a deep, dark depression and struggled. And it was through therapy that I was able to come out of that. And so I'm super grateful for my therapist at the time, who really helped me understand that, who was also a Methodist minister, who helped me understand that what I experienced at the church was not of God, and did not exemplify the love of God, but exemplified the hate and bigotry of that church. And so I was able to come out of my depression and sort of muster up the courage and the strength to walk authentically in Pensacola for a few months before I moved to New York. I stayed in Pensacola for another maybe 6 months and then moved to New York after that to go to school at the New School University in New York, and study theater, musical theater. But at the same time, I struggled to go into a church again after that. I struggled with my faith walk. I struggled to pray. I have always been a very spiritual person, and a person of faith. Like I mentioned before, I went to a Christian school. I grew up in the church. I, by choice, as a teenager in high school, I went to church 3 times a week, not because my family made me, which is most people's story, but I was actually the only one in my family who went to church that much.
I hear you. I had that kind of relationship as well. It was just who I was naturally. I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm naturally a curious person, and so I was hungry for God, and hungry to understand, and hungry to understand myself, and what my purpose is, and what all of this stuff of life means. And where I am now, it's been a journey. A part of my moving to New York, I understood it to be also a spiritual journey, of walking away from the church. And I think that was really necessary for me. I walked completely away from the church. I was not listening to any gospel or worship music. I was not praying to God in the same way. I was not reading my Bible anymore. I was not talking to my family about it. I was not going to say grace for the family. Like I wasn't doing it. And I started to study Buddhism. And I started to chant. I started to discover meditation and yoga and mindfulness and all of these other things that really sort of helped me to understand my spirituality in a new way. And then I sort of found that one of the things that I lacked and that I was missing, and that really was a key ingredient to my connection to the higher power, is music. And it was while doing, which is why I love music and theater so much, is it's all so connected to who we are as human beings and as spirits. It was while working on a musical called Born for This, which is written by and about the life of B.B. Winans, who's a gospel superstar. And I was hesitant to even be a part of this project, but I needed a job. And thank God I did, because it was an affirming space. It wasn't a space that was judgmental or critical or anything like that. It was an open space. But the music put me back in touch with that piece of my spirit that I had lost contact with. And I realized that I needed to get back in touch with that. And so slowly over the years since then, I think that was in 2015, I have been sort of piecing it back together. And honestly, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank
that
you.
was God saying, hey, girl.
Yes. It's my allergies because I've been outside every day. But it's during this journey of being outside, my spiritual connection is very much in tune with being able to put my feet in the earth and being able to be outside and be a part of nature. I grew up on a ranch, and this trip, the past few weeks for me have been very spiritual, and have been a lot about me connecting to God and talking to God and praying and sort of figuring it out. And I'm still figuring it out. It's a daily process, figuring out how to pray again and how to talk to God. And I think for the rest of my life, I will be trying to understand how to reconcile my faith with who I am, because I know that God accepts all of me, all of who I am. I am clear about that. But so much of what I have learned over the years, I have to unlearn. And so just trying to reconcile my faith and my identity is a lifelong process that I feel like I will always be my pursuit.
And I think everybody should keep questioning the relationship with faith and religion, no matter who you are, and no matter what age you are in your religion. I think that makes it a healthy relationship. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about your move to New York and your theater work. When we come back, okay, and we're back. Do you ever suffer from what I call advocate fatigue? I mean, this last Pride season, it was so easy to say yes to appearances and whatnot because of Zoom. Every interview that you've given, really focuses on your role as Pose, as a spokesperson for the LGBT community. Your PBS series, do you ever want to just take a breath and be like, can we talk about just my music or my singing, or, every conversation has to have this like serious LGBT theme. Do you ever get advocate fatigue?
I don't ever get advocate fatigue. I see my advocacy work as being a part of my artistry. The two are so interconnected that they're really, for me, I look at my work like ministry, honestly. It is, I was pushed out of the church where I was doing ministry, but that doesn't mean that my ministry ever stopped. And for me, it's all about helping people to recognize their power and their beauty and the fact that they are loved. And that's really all that anybody ever goes to church for anyway. And that's all, those are all the things that I get to do with my work. And so if that means that I have to talk about these things, I don't feel like I have to do it. I get to do it. One thing I will say, I think that I sort of get tired of talking about sexuality in this really sort of archaic way. I think we are in a space now where we can move beyond talking about sexuality and sexual identity. I think I'm just bored with that. And I'm more interested in talking about identity in a more comprehensive way and understanding that identity is complex and that includes our sexual desires. And so, there's this, one of James Baldwin's last interviews, he talks about how, he sort of made a career in his career, he's sort of been known as being gay and being Black and being a writer. And he talks about these issues in his work. That's intrinsically a part of who he is, but he doesn't want to make a life out of being gay and Black, and that's sort of how I feel. Like, I'm not interested in making a life out of being queer. Like, that's just a part of who I am and a part of what my work is. But I'm more so interested in talking about the human condition and talking about identity in a really nuanced way.
I love that. So many times I'm introduced, oh, he's the gay, radio show host or whatever. I'm like,
right.
well, no, I mean, yes, I'm that. But I'm also like a snazzy dresser. I'm a terrible cook, and, I sing too high. Like, why can't that be my descriptive too? And I think as right now, I get it. It's important to take a stand. But I think the more we kind of show that we're everything, then the more we can get that equality and blend and open up those conversations with people who might not who we are, because we're not just that. We're not gay all the time at home. I mean, even though you're wearing like a lesbian flannel today, you don't always dress like.
But again, would you say lesbian, not gay? So I mean, it's like there's nuance.
Okay, what's a hobby or habit that we would be surprised to learn that is totally outside the Dyllon personality that we see on a regular basis?
A hobby or habit?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe the fact that I love the outdoors. Like, I can be in my lesbian flannel all day and go outside, and like, I haven't worn shoes once in 2 weeks. Like, I've been outside barefoot every day, and it's glorious. I love it. I love getting my hands dirty. I love being in the earth, and yeah, it's just really my happy place.
And now that you're in, the public eye so much, like you said, you were recognized in this, smaller town, an ultra conservative town. Do you feel the pressure to be that persona that we see every time in public? You can't get crazy at the club. One night stands, you have to think, is this really worth a one night stand? Or even being on the apps. Can you imagine if like you were on the app and then somebody, that 19-year-old said, "Hey girl, can't wait for season 3." And you're like, ah! I mean, there's that kind of personal private life that's kind of taken away.
Absolutely. There's some things that I absolutely cannot do anymore. Many of those things I didn't do before, or didn't do a lot of, like the apps. That's never really been. I mean, I'm not saying I never had it before. Come on, girl. That's not
what we're going to talk about your music video for Silence, because it kind of talks about that. It's kind of,
Absolutely. And I would love to speak to that. So, like I said, the apps is not something that I've really done a lot of. When I lost my job at the church and started to explore my sexuality, the apps were sort of the first point of contact to sort of get introduced to guys.
Yeah.
So
which is such a weird context that's your first communication. Like that skews the whole idea of being gay.
In what way? What do you mean?
Because it's about the sexual. Those apps promote the sex, and like we discussed, being a gay is all encompassing. And so for somebody that's just coming out, for those to be the first gay conversations, or to be so focused on the actual sexual act, I think is damaging in the whole scope of things. It's not about relationship building, family building, being a part of the LGBT community as a voting member. It's sex. And that's what people view the gay community, I think, from the ultra conservative side. They see us as having sex with men rather than, well, okay, that's the fun thing we get to do from being gay, but Right.
Well, I didn't know the apps were a sex app at that point. And I don't know if maybe they were always designed to be that. But we're talking back in 2012. So
what was your favorite one that you used to use?
Jacked.
Yeah, everybody's talked about Jacked. In fact, you even talked about it during Prideland.
Yes, Jacked. So I tried Grindr and I tried Jacked, but Grindr was a little racist for me. I didn't get any real bites on Grindr, and so Jacked, I got more, interaction, and it wasn't about sex for me at all, because I also was not yet comfortable enough to have sex with the man. Like, I wasn't going to just hook up with the guy. I needed to meet somewhere and like figure it out. And mostly those apps were at that app anyway, it was a place for me to just connect and talk to someone. I'm a millennial. I grew up in the sort of AOL chat room era. And so, like,
M for M in a city. Yep.
So, like,
I remember those.
The AOL chat was my generation's thing in elementary school. And so, like, to me, going on one of these apps was like that. I'm just going on here talking to somebody and like having a conversation and trying to have an extended conversation. And then sort of learning along the way that that's not really what people want to do on here. And so I learned early on that the apps are not really for me. When I wrote that song Silence that you were just talking about, and in December of last year, I had downloaded the apps again, interestingly enough. And I obviously didn't have my face on the app, on the apps, but I had gone through a breakup and we had finished shooting season 2 of Pose. And I went through like this period of just like really deafening silence in my life, where I was like, and usually I'm like the kind of guy who's fine to go to a cabin by myself and spend lots of alone time. I've always been that way. I'm an only child. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it was just being inundated with people all the time from Pose and press requests, and then having a boyfriend and him always being there when I wasn't working, and just like always having someone around I had gotten really used to that. And when all of it got quiet with work, and when he and I broke up and I was just home by myself, I had a really hard time dealing with that, coping with that silence. And so I was going to my DMs all the time, looking for people to talk to, or I downloaded the apps again and like was talking to people, and it wasn't hooking up. I didn't hook up with one person from the app. But
I know. I think you blocked me.
that's because you started the conversation with sup, and I hate that.
I would never. I give like a Shakespeare intro. How art thou?
No, but it was all just about me talking to people and connecting with people. And before I would go to bed at night, I would just like send messages and like fall asleep messaging people. And that's when I realized, like, okay, there's something happening right now that needs to be dealt with, because this isn't about hooking up. This is, I don't even want to continue the conversation with this person on another day. It's just like just enough for me to feel like I could go to sleep. Something's not right. And so I started working through that with my therapist and like writing about it. And then the song Silence was birthed.
Well, and we have a treat for our audience. At the end of the show, we're going to take a look at the music video for Silence.
Oh, wow.
It's beautifully done. So stay tuned for that. Okay. Share with me your worst date story.
My worst date story. Oh my God, I've had so many incredible dates.
Don't rub it in.
I think, okay, I have one that I can think that just popped in my head because it was fairly recent. So I met this guy. I met this guy in New York through mutual connections. Didn't know much about him. I thought he was cute and didn't think any more about it. Ran into him randomly on the street in the city in New York, which is always amusing to me when I see somebody casually walking down the street in New York who I have only seen once. And so we'd start talking and we say, okay, we should hang out. We both were coincidentally going to be in LA. And so we decided to meet up in LA. So I go to this thing that he's doing. He's on a panel in LA, and I have no idea anything about him or about his life. And so I hear him on this panel and he's brilliant, talking about really important, wonderful things. And I think, wow, this guy is not only beautiful, he's super smart and passionate and, conscious and woke and all that good shit. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be really great. And so afterwards we go to dinner and I'm thinking, okay, if this man gets it right, somebody might get lucky tonight.
I need to get on a panel is what you're saying. Okay.
But no, seriously, I was thinking like this is promising. And so we go to dinner and we start having dinner and start talking and going through the conversations, the getting to know you conversations. And I just realized that he was so self-absorbed and not really listening to the responses to the questions he was asking me. And he wasn't really present. And so I thought, this is not how I thought this was going to go, and was really unfortunate. And he invited me out on another date and I was like, okay. And didn't plan on following up. And he followed up and I thought he wanted to go hiking. And I said, well, okay, I really want to go hiking anyway. I'm going to go hiking anyway, because you're in LA. You have to go hiking. It's like this thing that the universe just tells you have to go hiking. And like, even if you don't want to go hiking, somehow you wake up in the morning and you have shoes on and you're at Runyon Canyon. I don't know how.
Runyon Canyon.
It's just an LA thing. You just end up hiking.
Yep.
And so I decided, okay, I'll go hiking. And if I'm going to go with him, I'm going to tell him about himself. And so I went, and after we finished the hike, I said, you need to know something. I wasn't going to come here with you because you were really full of yourself the other night, and I was not feeling it. I felt like you were just not really present with me, and we didn't have a good conversation. And he really received it, and I was completely shocked. And I thought, well, maybe he's not as self-absorbed as I thought he was. Maybe he just was in a weird space and in this weird place because he was on a high from doing the panel. I don't know. But he really received it, and he worked on it. And we went on a couple of dates after that. It didn't work out, but I learned that he actually is a good person. And so I say that to say that just because you have a bad experience with someone or a bad date with someone, it doesn't mean that all is lost. I think that sometimes we put all this pressure on it now. I mean, if it goes real bad, like if he's 30 minutes late, doesn't apologize, and then leaves you with the check, it's a problem. But you know, most things you can talk about and just be human and be upfront and say, hey, this was fucked up. I think you should work on that if you want to see me again. And he worked on it, so he saw me.
Well, I think that's so important. Like that's so adult, is to actually have a conversation and communicate. You know, we're in this era of ghosting and just disappearing, or like, that didn't work. But it's important to share honesty, even if it is a one-time date or whatever. We need more of that rather than just walking away in this cancel culture. So, okay, that's good to hear. I want to talk about moving to New York from the South. There must have been culture shock, to say the least. What was the hardest part about adjusting in your first few months in the Big Apple?
Grocery shopping.
I don't know where New Yorkers grocery shop. I mean, when I go, I'm only there 7 days max, but there's nowhere to grocery shop.
I've been a New Yorker for 8 years, going on 9. Grocery shopping is still the hardest thing about being in New York.
Oh, no way.
It's insane. It just doesn't compute. It's like initially my issue was, where do I go to grocery shop? Because, you know, I was living in like Harlem and it was a food desert at that point. And then it was like, okay, now I've discovered the beauty of Trader Joe's. It's great food and it's cheap. But I got to go all the way over here, go all the way down here to get a Trader Joe's. And then I've got to get on the subway to get back up and climb 4 flights of stairs with all these grocery bags. And it's like, I don't have I didn't have the money to, you know, pay somebody to go grocery shopping for me. So it's like, you know, if you are a broke college student in New York and you have to carry your own groceries, look, girl, I'm going to pray for you.
It builds character. You studied your craft at Cap 21. What were your best classes? What were your worst classes?
Okay, my best classes. Well, I'll start with the worst classes. I had my music theory class there. I tested out of it and I was grateful because I went a couple of times and I was like, I'm not into this music theory class. I also, before I moved to New York, I was a music major. So I had really great music theory teachers. So yeah. And the music history class was also not, music theater history class was also not really great at Cap 21. But all of my performance classes were great. My acting teacher, Larry Arantio, and my other acting teacher, Tracy Bursley, I learned so much from Larry and Tracy, and Amy Francis, also a wonderful acting teacher, and she taught my musical theater acting class, and just such brilliant acting teachers. And my vocal instructor, David Kelso, was really great, and oh my God, Mr. Roselli, rest in peace. Chris Roselli was also one of my vocal instructors there, who was fantastic and such a diva. And so,
I love that.
Yeah, I had some really. Oh, and Lori Leschner, who was a fantastic jazz dance instructor. And Marilyn Dunnow ballet. So many, it's just so many great classes there. I got to go to Cap 21 at the end of an era. You know, it was Cap 21, for those who don't know, it's collaborative arts project 21, started by Frank and Eliza Ventura. It was musical theater conservatory that trained all of NYU students for many, many years. And they broke off and decided to do their own thing when NYU did the musical theater training in-house and had a partnership with the New School University where I attended. And now they are attached to another college. But during that time was sort of, when I was there, was sort of the end of like the golden years.
I want to talk about opening night on Broadway in Holler If You Hear Me. Small town boy hits the Broadway stage. The lights go up. It's opening night. Yeah. What's going on in your mind? Tell me about that experience.
Whew. I just got chills thinking about it. You know, it's one of those things that I look back at now that I'm so proud of. Because everything was pointing against me being able to accomplish that. I was not raised to know anything about Broadway. I didn't know that Broadway was an option for me. The only way I knew anything about Broadway being an actual career or a way that you could perform and do it professionally is because Usher was in Chicago, and I am obsessed with Usher. And so when he did Chicago, which is why representation is so important, because if Usher had not been in Chicago, I would have never known that that was a possibility for me, and I would have never sought it out. So once I knew that I wanted to do that, my dream was to move to New York and be on Broadway. And I had this sort of blind confidence, this naive confidence to think that I would just go to New York and it would happen like that. And I just believed, this blind faith.
And it did.
What's that?
And it did.
And it did. And I say that to say to folks, like, you just have to believe. That's all it takes. You just have to believe in yourself fully, and that's all, and work really hard to make it happen. And so I moved there 2012, and after my first year, I booked the workshop for Holler If You Hear Me, and that I got to do that workshop opposite Chadwick Boseman, who just passed away. And it was a once in a lifetime experience. I was the rookie in the room, and I was working with Chadwick and Chris Jackson, from who we know as George Washington in Hamilton, and Adrienne Lennox, who won a Tony for Doubt, and just so many incredible actors. And Kenny Leon was directing, and Wayne Cilento of Wicked fame was choreographing, and just
a magical experience.
Magical experience. And so fast forward to opening night, and I booked that on an open call, by the way, and I was one of the principals. And so opening night, we had already done several weeks of previews, and so the show, and I had been doing the show for a year, so the show's in my body. I know the show, I know the character inside and out, but I was just thinking about all of the people that were in the audience, the critics, but not even the critics so much. I was thinking about my family. My grandparents were sitting in the orchestra, and the last time my family had gone to New York to see a Broadway show was Porgy and Bess. And I told my granny, the next time you see a Broadway show, you're going to be seeing me on my opening night. And that was what I was thinking about.
That just gave me the chills.
And I was terrified because I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to mess anything up. I wanted her to come in and see. I wanted her to see my most perfect show. And so I had this mantra that I would say every night. I would do push-ups every night before the show. And I had this mantra that I would say, I come from greatness to evoke my ancestors and my family. I am greatness to evoke the spirit that's within me, and I am destined for greatness to evoke the person that I wanted to become. That was my mantra. And I would just repeat that to myself until it was my time to go walk on stage.
Yeah.
That was one of my
Like I said, this is all waiting for the most magical Lifetime movie I've ever seen in my life. Okay, we know you did Peter Pan Live. So I have to be honest, when I'm in the audience or I'm playing a role in a show, I always get the worst, maddest crushes on the chorus boys or the ensemble boys. It's never like the lead parts at all. It's always, and you were part of the Lost Boys, part of the Hot Little Boys. What is your stance on dating a co-star or a co-worker? This question is actually from one of your fans.
Woo. Okay, fans.
Mm-hmm. And I mean dating or dating.
Right, dating. Why y'all in my business, fans? Actually, I actually dated someone in the show in Holler If You Hear Me. He was my actual boyfriend for a little bit, and I learned that that's not a good idea.
It's tough. It is tough.
It's not a good idea. It was fun and exciting in the beginning because we were spending all this time together. We had to spend time together, and then we would go home and spend all this time together, and it was great, and then it wasn't great. And so we broke up, and then I did Peter Pan Live, and I was getting over him and was dating someone in Peter Pan Live.
Oh God, I want to know who. I'm gonna rewatch that. I'm gonna look at the credits.
I'm not telling. And so, but that was really sticky because I went from one show to the next, and I really didn't have a social network at that point. I had literally finished school the week before we started rehearsals for Broadway. My life was school and then work. I went straight into work. And so all of the people that I was meeting at that time were people that I worked with. So in my defense, I only knew boys who I worked with. But
plus, I mean,
what's that?
No, go.
Yeah, I only knew boys who I worked with, and so we sort of had a thing going on during Peter Pan Live that was really not great at all. But I realized I just needed a rebound because I had just finished that breakup with the guy from Holler If You Hear Me, and in the course of those like 6 months, I was like, I'm never doing this again, and so I am really anti-dating. In the show, because I feel like when you're in a show, you have to be around each other and you can't get away from each other. And it just gets really sticky. If something goes wrong in the relationship at home, then you bring it with you to work. I had many nights during Holler If You Hear Me where I had to go out on stage and I'm crying backstage because we're fighting, and then I have to like come on stage. Luckily, my first scene in Holler If You Hear Me, I had to cry, so it worked for some of the scenes. But like, it's just too much, and I think you can't shit where you eat.
There is that hard part though, where it's romanticized because you're in costume, you're in makeup, you're in tech. There's that excitement of the show, and it's romantic in that itself. And then adding like the fun little, the little side relationship, but like you said, it can sour quite quickly. So okay, so you're not going to date a coworker.
It's fun to do it when nobody else knows it's going on.
Yes, like. Behind a curtain or under the stage?
Oh my God. I wasn't going there, but yeah. But no, I think there's that part of like nobody else knows, but they actually probably really do know.
Yes, and that's the fun. All right, so you won't be dating a coworker, unfortunately. That question was sent to us by Billy Porter. He was interested in having a throuple. That's not going to work out. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are talking all about Pose, and we're going to take a look at the video for Silence when we come back. Okay, so the category is Pose Chat. I know you were originally approached to play Damon, and that didn't work out, but they wrote the role of Ricky for you.
You did your homework.
Oh, girl, I'm your number one stalker. How did you first hear about Pose, and what were your thoughts when you heard about the project and what it was?
Yeah, I got the call about Pose. I was in West Virginia actually doing a play, in a theater festival in West Virginia, in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And my agent sent over the breakdown on like a Friday night to look at this show, this project. And I thought, okay. And I read the breakdown for the character, and it sort of described it. And I was like, I don't know if this is something that I really want to be a part of. It was like evoking Paris is Burning. And I was like, for a long time, I was really afraid of getting pigeonholed and sort of, like I talked about before, making a life out of being queer. Like, it's like, I'm an actor. I could play any role. I played straight characters. I played gay characters. I played all kinds of characters. And I will continue to play all kinds of characters.
That's what an actor does.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was, our industry in so many ways has been really narrow-minded about particularly queer actors being able to play non-queer characters. And so I was really afraid to step out, so to speak, with a role that was so queer. And so I was hesitant about putting myself on tape for it. And then I read the script. And when I read the script that Friday night, well, I think my agent sort of knew instinctively that I would be hesitant, because in addition to sending the breakdown, the assistance in the breakdown, he sent me an email that was an aside saying, I read the script. I think you'd be perfect for this. Really take a look at it. And I was like, okay. He sent an email. I'll at least read it before I turn it down. So I read the script and was completely blown away. It was one of those moments where even if I wasn't a part of it, I wanted to see it. Like, I was like, this has to be made, and I want to see what happens next. And so I was hungry for more. And so as soon as I finished reading it, I watched Paris is Burning, and I was like, I want more of this world. And so I put myself on tape that Monday, because it was due Monday. I put myself on tape that Monday, worked on it all weekend, and sent in the tape for Damon. And about a week and a half later, they asked me to send footage of me dancing. And I was in tech for the play that I was doing. And if you folks out there know anything about what tech rehearsal is, it's a really intense time for an actor. Where you don't ask them to do anything, basically. Yes. And so they were asking me to do a dance video, and I was like, I'm in tech. I don't have time to put together a dance video. And my agent, again, he calls me this time, and he's like, look, I know you're in tech, but this is a Ryan Murphy pilot, series regular. I don't care what you got to do, but you need to figure out a way to make this happen. And so I went through my phone and found a bunch of videos of me in dance class, where if you go to dance class, you tape the routine at the end of class. Yeah. And I just spliced together a bunch of those from dance classes. So thank you to Matt Lopez for all the classes at Steps on Broadway, because you helped me book this, bruh. And then they told me they wanted to do a screen test. I went out for the screen test. I flew back to New York for the screen test, and I didn't book it. And then heard back that they wanted to, that Ryan Murphy liked me, and that he wanted to write a character for me. And so Ricky was born.
I want to know when you're going to make the crossover to American Horror Story, by the way. That's my personal, like...
I want to know too.
Should we text Ryan right now? Ryan, what's up? I want that to happen so badly. If it can happen for one of the cast members propose, I don't know why there can't be more, right?
We'll see.
Okay, but so the dancing, you brought up, dancing on the show is a whole different level. As an actor, the ballroom scenes give me such anxiety, because it's like a medical room drama where there's so many moving parts and so much. If you get one little thing wrong, reset, everybody's got to go back. What is filming? What's the day of filming for a ballroom scene like? Like, what does that day even look like?
The ball scenes are actually the most fun scenes to shoot because, and they're actually the most organic. And you would think otherwise, like you said, you think if one thing gets messed up, then you have to go back. But we actually shoot it in real time. Like we shoot it like a real ball. And, you know, we walk the categories like we would a real ball. So it's just, we're just doing it over and over and over again. And so it's hard on us, but the energy is so high. From all of the background actors who all, well, for the most part, not all of them, but most of them come from the ballroom community. And so the energy is so high in there and it's so palpable that it just, you know, it carries us into the wee hours of the morning, but it can be really grueling. But I think the most intense day that I have had on the set of Pose was filming the Solid Gold episode in season 2. That was 14 hours of straight dancing for myself, Ryan Jamal Swain, and the other actor who was there, and it just Courtney, and that poor girl had to dance in heels. So it was just like, that was 14 hours straight dancing. That had nothing on a ball scene. The balls ain't got nothing that day.
The cast has such a sincere chemistry that kind of comes off the screen, and I think it's really made the show so cohesive because you have actors of every level of what they've done in their career and their comfort on camera with this kind of script. How was that chemistry building done? Was it through rehearsals, team building exercises, hanging out before? How was that established on set?
I think we all just sort of had a natural connection. And a lot of that was built through the rehearsal process that we did for the ballroom stuff. For the first season, we took like ballroom class together where, you know, Jack Mizrahi would come in and teach us, and Twiggy Pucci Garçon would come in and teach us about ballroom history. And then Twiggy and Leomi Maldonado would actually rehearse us and teach us different ballroom techniques, whether it's walking or actually voguing. And so doing those things together for the first season really helped us grow together as a family and as a team. But beyond that, there is this other layer of all of us sharing the experience of being the other in the room, in our careers generally, you know, always being sort of the token other in the room. And so getting to all come together in this project was really unique for us to have a room full of Black and brown queer folks, queer and trans folks, be the leading cast of a show was really special. We all felt and appreciated that. And so we bonded over that and just spent a lot of time together, going out to eat and having drinks and, like, you know, partying together.
I love that. That's what I hope to hear. This last season was a really big one for your character, Ricky. It was a truly heartbreaking moment when we witnessed Ricky's diagnosis of HIV. Truly heartbreaking. My heart stopped. Tears just poured out. How did they tell you this was happening with your character? And coming from a generation not familiar with the absolute loss that was happening during that time, how did you prepare as an actor?
Well, I found out when I got it on the page, and so reading it, I mourned for Ricky personally. I remember reading it on my sofa and just sort of mourning for that character, and mourning for all of the people that experienced that came before me, all the folks that Ricky represents. Mourning for that experience for them. And what was the second part of your question?
How did you prepare? Because you didn't grow up in that generation where people were literally dying by the hundreds all around you. And so it's kind of a different environment. How did you prepare for that kind of intensity as an actor?
It was a couple of things. I did a lot of research about the time period. And a part of that research was going back and watching interviews and documentaries about the time and the AIDS epidemic. But also talking to folks who lived during that time, who lived through that time, and getting firsthand accounts of folks who were able to survive it, and who lost a lot of their loved ones in that time. And so that really sort of helped me understand the stakes for Ricky at that time. But also being a queer man who knows folks who who are HIV positive now, and hearing and knowing their stories of finding out, and experiencing going into the clinic myself to go get tested, and just sort of fusing all of those things together really helped me. I pulled from that when I was filming that scene.
I even talking about it, I have to take a breath because it hit me pretty hard when I was watching. Another plot point, spoiler alert, your relationship with Pray Tell, played by Billy Porter, that was a twist I didn't see coming. Your love scene, that love scene with Billy, everybody screenshotted that love scene because, well, booty, booty, booty. That's all I got to say. But it was very eye-opening, but it was also a celebration of intimacy between two men with HIV, and intimacy between generations of the gay community, and intimacy between two sexy, hot Black men. I mean, there was a lot that the scene represented. What was the mood like on set for that scene? And if Billy Porter needs like a body stand-in for next season, just let me know. You know, I'll stand in for him and help prepare. I'll be on the next plane. What was the mood like for that scene? Was this your first like big sex scene on camera?
It was.
Well, I mean, a professional camera.
Period. Period. But the mood on set was really sort of. Now that I think back to it, it was really sort of like heavy, you know? It was like everybody understood that we were about to do something really difficult. And, you know, everyone really respected that in terms of like the crew and everyone. But there was also sort of like this, I don't know, we're stepping into dark waters, dark territory, deep waters. And like, you know, just really, he and I really respected that too, and made sure that we had conversations and wanted to make sure that we let each other know that we respect the seriousness of what we're doing, and not just the sex of it, but what it would represent. And just wanting to do it in a way that brought beauty and honor to these characters and their relationship and their story, and so, you know, it was all love, but it was also work. And
yeah,
you know, I'm eternally grateful for Billy Porter and for being such a gracious scene partner, and to Stephen Canals for being such an incredible director, and holding our hands through it and being supportive and all that good stuff.
Well, it was definitely emotional, and it definitely was a huge success. Can you tell us anything about season 3?
I can only tell you that it's happening.
Well, I know that.
I don't know.
I know that Ryan Murphy likes to surprise his actors. Like you said, you found out about your character on the page. You know, you just never know what's coming, right?
You never know. And, you know, I've initially, that freaked me out because I come from the theater where you have everything on the page before you ever start. But I've actually come to really enjoy it because it just sort of keeps you on your toes, and you recognize that you don't know your character as well as you think you do. Well, I think that it's that part, but also it also reinforces that you actually do know your character, because no matter what they throw at you, you're able to navigate that in the way that is true to your character. And so it's just forced me to get to know Ricky in every way, so that no matter what they throw at me, it never feels like a curveball. It always just feels like, okay, we're just unpacking this other piece of him that I've already explored in my private time.
Where, like you said, you're in this period of retreat, reflection. There's so much that you've been working on your own writing. Also, your music, Coming Out with Silence. It's kind of a throwback to your early R&B days. It's about dating and sex as validation. What was your inspiration to say, okay, it's time to do a single?
So I didn't even know that I was going to put out a single. I was listening to all of the songs that I've recorded back in April. And when I heard Silence, I heard it with completely fresh ears, because I was in the middle of quarantining, and I was like, oh my God, this is so relevant to everything that I'm having conversations with my friends about right now. This is exactly what I am going through all over again in quarantine, but I've actually sort of I've been working through these feelings all year, because the work started for me back in December. And so I just realized that the song just had a completely new resonance in the context of COVID. And so I got on the phone with my manager and I just said, I think we need to release Silence next month. And so we originally planned to release it on Memorial Day weekend in May. And George Floyd was murdered Memorial Day weekend. And it was like, no, this is not the time to be releasing this song. And so, then we were going to release it during Pride, but it was like, it's just the protest and everything. My interest became really about lending my voice to the movement. And so I took the whole Pride month and the campaign around Prideland to deal with the movement for Black lives and talking about liberation in a way that's comprehensive. And so we released the song in July, which I'm so grateful about. We've gotten a really great response for it, and it was number 20 on the R&B charts. And top 20 in the R&B charts, sorry. And it's just incredible. It's crazy to see people respond to it so well. And also, I shot this video at home at my mom's house, and she sort of helped me with some of the camera angles for some of this.
I love that. And we got to see a little bit on your social media, like you in front of the green screen. Yeah.
And so it was a project that my mom and I got to do together, and she was once my manager when I was in boy band. And so it was an opportunity for us to bond over music again. And so it just has been a really beautiful experience, and the song has given so much back to me in the process of releasing it. So I'm super grateful for it. And it seems to be giving to other people too, which is all that I could ever hope for.
Well, I'm certainly so grateful for it. Number one, we get to see you at your best. We get to see you as you. And it's such a special song. And now knowing how it was created, even more special. I'm a mama's boy too, so real fast, what kind of character would you want to play on American Horror Story?
I want to play the villain on American Horror Story. I want to play the guy who no one expects to be the killer, but actually is really sadistic and fucked up. That's
oh my God.
That's who I would want to be. The boy next door who actually has 10 bodies under his bed.
Yes. Sounds like an ideal date. Sounds like my ex, actually. Okay, and last but not least, is Lil Poppy, is Angel as cute in person as he is on TV?
He is fucking adorable.
He's so cute. I have a picture cheeks.
Yes, Angel, Bismarck Curiel is such a great guy, so cute, and not cute. He's handsome. He's fucking beautiful. And just an all around great guy. I'm just really blessed to work with so many talented and beautiful people on the show.
Well, it's certainly part of television history and part of LGBTQ history. So thank you for your part in that. Where do you want our audience to find and follow you?
Follow me on all the social media platforms. I'm back on there. I took a month off in August. So for all the folks who have wondered why I got really quiet in August, that's why I'm back now. Maybe still not as heavy as I once was, but you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at Dyllon Burnside, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Yes, and we're going to end the show by playing the video from Silence, which I'm very excited to share with the world. And that's it for the show. It's always a grab bag of fun every week on The Rocks. Give us a like, a subscribe, a share. Send us your nudes. Head to ontherrocksradioshow.com for all this fun for free. Next week, yeah, cheers, sweetie. Next week, we have Star Trek Discovery's actress Marie Chieffo, TV's sexiest Klingon. And coming up, we have actor Michael Urie. And we have some Real Housewife alum coming back on the show to talk hot topics. So stay healthy, stay tipsy. Kurt, can you take us out by watching Dyllon Burnside in Silence?
I want you to want me. I just want to be seen. I don't want to be alone or end up here on my own. I wanna be loved. I wanna be loved. This isn't living. There's something missing. Searching for what's right in front of me. I need that feeling, sexual healing. Give me the love I need. I don't know how to fight it. No, I can't take the silence. I got these voices in my head. That's why I need you in my bed to feel all the silence. Feel all the silence. I ain't tryna make it all about me, but you'll never make it all about me. Tonight I'll be the captain, follow my lead. Ain't no cabin, you're all that I need. Feeling on your body, that's enough. Tryna get in, but I'm out of love. I know I could feel like I'm out of touch. Babe, that's when I need you to fill me up. This isn't living. There's something missing. Searching for what's right in front of me. I need that feeling, sexual healing. Give me the love.
This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at ontherocksradioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.